This man hit me, grabbed a rock, and he hit me in my face because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch.
What you
y'all see that?
What you want?
What do y'all do? I want y'all to be a man. I want y'all to be a man.
Like one of the first things that goof ass motherfuckers say is like, "Oh, equal rights, equal lefts, or equal."
I hate that shit. I hate that shit.
That's the first thing they love to say.
Why is that?
You want equal pay, bitch? Square up.
Don't get this left in, bitch.
Did you have to fight for your 1575, Robert? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
See, something on top of that makes me mad is in these conversations, people are using bullshit on one side to justify bullshit on the other. So it'd be like, there is some subset of women who have some unrealistic expectations of what masculinity should be, including putting your life on the line to save a stranger. But then that gets turned into, see how these women want us to protect them physically with our bodies, but they refuse to be our sexual slaves across the entire civilization.
That's
and it's
the
like,
shit.
You go from one left to another fucking left.
It's a red flag.
So what do y'all think? And moving on.
I don't give a fuck. All right.
But I'm glad that it looks like I do.
I'm glad it looks like I care.
I paused for like mad long and y'all didn't say shit. So I thought that meant,
This
okay,
nigga
it's
paused
stupid.
for 5 whole seconds.
That's an incredibly long time.
Josh said, and you said, okay, moving on.
All right.
Well,
I don't give a fuck.
that means it's ass, right? If somebody's... If you were talking to a girl, right, and you were like, hey, like we should link, or like, hey, like, can I get your number? And she paused for 5 entire seconds and then said, I'd be like, have a nice day, ma'am. That's a no.
So when you talk to corporate baddies, Eddie,
corporate,
they have to consider their schedules and like what they got going on.
Okay.
Which may mean they have to pause for an extended period of time, maybe even longer than 5 seconds before they give you an answer.
I date gutter goblins and lower level professionals. I don't date nobody. I've never dated a corporate lady. So maybe you're right. Maybe I was just asking a girl who had a calendar. I've never dated a girl with a calendar.
Gutter goblins.
One day though.
These are wild monikers.
They down here with me.
Nigga, you have a calendar. Shut up, man. Shut up.
Yeah, I know, but I'm inspired. I'm inspired. I do have a calendar, right? But
Eddie's calendar might be a little bit more meticulous than Alvin's, if we're being honest.
Honestly, yeah. Because I work off the dome most of the time. Eddie probably has like a legit like system.
Bro, you see the mug he drinking out of? It look like he the type of motherfucker who
Absolutely.
Exactly. He wakes up, puts his fucking tea on, fucking goes to his cork board and like fucking figures this shit out.
Bro,
you right.
That's his Sunday morning mug. Y'all just, come on now. Like, I promise you.
They're literally all labeled inside the cabinet. So you're right.
Wow.
We all got calendars. Why we all grown as hell? Why we trying to act like we don't use calendars?
Nigga, you the only one that was acting like nobody had a calendar. That was
I didn't say I didn't have it. No, I just said the girls that I date, they haven't had calendars historically.
Why?
I date bums.
Wow.
Because I don't have no money, so I stay in my lane. I stay in my lane.
Women that Eddie have dated, just looking at him like.
I know. That was
I'm sorry. Well, sorry.
Everybody are bums but you.
Not you.
Right.
You can hear this. Not you.
If I've ever put my penis in you, you're not a bum. You were elevated right there and then at that moment.
No. Hey, look, man. I'm an ally.
No. We not passing over what Josh just said. This nigga said you were elevated when I put my penis inside of you.
Yeah. You was a bum until I stuck it. That's wild. That's wild, but it's true.
That's some shit you say.
It's true, though. Because
exactly. Look at it.
Because it would be true. It's a dicker fixer upper, you know. That's what I'm all about.
Dicker fixer upper. That's crazy.
Let me upgrade you. You know. Anyway, welcome everybody to Waving the Red Flag, the #1 dating and dick upgrade podcast in the universe. It's your boy Eddie. It's Josh. It's Alvin. Joined today by the magnanimous Professor Odi in the building for all your therapy
baby,
needs.
I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw.
That was meta, Josh. I get where you were going with
You saw
the old dirty bastard.
Yeah. He said Professor OD, so like, it sounded like he said instead of OD, it was like OD. I was just waiting for the bastard.
I got you. I feel it. But yeah, I guess I'll do a quick introduction.
Yeah, you can. I mean, we already did that, but no, sorry, go ahead.
But like my
Give us your credentials, nigga.
You feel me?
Yeah, some real shit, not just the bullshit that we did. Because I'm sure you know. Is it an acronym?
No.
Is it OD? Okay.
Odi. So now, Professor Odi. So Odi is a shortened version of my first name. My first name is Odi Lakachi. So my entire name is Odi Lakachi William Hezekiah Onkwe. My name on Instagrams and the social medias used to be my name super long. And then I was like, it's time for a change, you know? So
Yeah.
we changed it to Professor Odi because I can't be running around saying my name's super long and attempting to build a professional-esque brand.
No. And it's white supremacist, low key. You know what I'm saying?
Look,
say the whole thing.
Everybody like to be difficult. Okay.
That's true. Yeah, look, if I gotta say it, you gotta say it.
Whatever he actually forced everybody to say his whole day.
Hey, can we call you Slickback for short?
No, nigga, I'm a pimp named Slickback.
Crystal, who is this person?
Nigga, are you deaf? I'm
Odi Lakachi William Hezekiah Onkwe.
The whole thing.
Every time.
I don't have a first name. I don't have a last name.
I have an entire
It's
name.
just the whole thing. I have a name. Motherfucking.
It's like a Tribe Called.
Yeah. Every time. A pimp named Slickback.
Every single time.
What's that background? Is that, let me not guess. What's that background?
It's Nigerian. I'm an
Okay,
Igbo
yeah.
man.
Okay. I was going to say, but I was like, my anthropology ain't perfect, but I was like, that sound Igbo to me. Okay.
No, it's definitely Igbo, bro. You would have hit it right on the nose. But yeah, so I'm definitely Igbo, man. I've been a therapist since 2017, 18, one of the two. I have done traveling therapy. I have done associate program directing. I have been a outpatient therapist for adults. I have worked with populations of children between ages of 16 and 24. I had a multitude of experience in these mental health streets. And now what it is that I do teletherapy. And I do mental health and wellness coaching, which is also through, once again, online means. And I work with an all-Black mental health and wellness collective in the city of Philadelphia called Full Being Services, and that's where I do my traditional therapy.
Oh, yeah. Damn, we got some credentialed motherfuckers on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We really doing something. We really doing something. Damn. We really upgrading people. Y'all welcome. Nah, hold on. You're welcome to the audience. No, you to the audience, not to you. Yo, you gotta put your defenses down. You want
Eddie Button upgrading all of us.
You feel me?
Thank you, Button. Thank you.
You're on the team. This motherfucker got the guns pointed at himself. We're upgrading the audience. Damn, Alvin, come on. How we gonna make it if the team got the guns on me? Shit. All right. Yeah, we'll get into some topics. Some topicals?
Yes, sir.
All right. Which one do we want to do first? Do we want to do, because I thought this one was interesting, but it's maybe not timely. Do we want to do Tyrese versus DJ Envy, or do we want to go the woman who got bricked?
Okay.
Or something else?
May I? I actually, Odi,
okay.
I would like to talk about the Tyrese versus DJ Envy thing real quick because there were some things in there that needed some unpacking.
That's what I think it's a very interesting one. It's actually one of my favorite ones on this list because I think it's very timely. Even just some conversations that we've had off air kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
You could say you were on those psych meds and you could say that you weren't.
What you mean?
But as a man, some of the things that you said, Tyrese, deserve me to box your mouth. And I didn't.
No.
Apparently Tyrese was on psych meds for like some time, and he was like just wilding out, like going off on people, and then making a fool of himself online, and that was where the whole "What more do you want from me?" came from. Congratulations!
Congratulations! Oh my God!
That was during that time, and Tyrese was a very, very, very good friend to DJ Envy during a time where DJ Envy cheated on his wife and his relationship was really almost over. Tyrese really came through for him. Damn near, you could pretty much say Tyrese probably saved his marriage, and that wouldn't be a stretch. But when Tyrese was going through things, DJ Envy wasn't there for him, and Tyrese really took issue with that. Now, hearing Tyrese talk about it and why he had an issue with DJ Envy, it's like I understand where you're coming from, Tyrese, but at the same time, Tyrese sounds like he's not fully taking accountability.
Do you hold your boy to what he's saying while he's drunk?
No, I never held that against you.
Okay. Do you hold anybody to anything that they're doing when you know that this is their usual self?
Or the things that he did, even if he might have been out of his mind. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I can give you some grace for that, but like that doesn't absolve everything. It was at one point, a couple points, he was like, don't hold me to that. Like I was living to something I said or something I did when I was out of my mind. It's like, bro, I feel that. Like, okay, cool. That's a valid excuse, but that's not complete absolution from this shit. Because
it's a reason, not an excuse.
Yeah,
as I always say, there are reasons, and then there are excuses. Oftentimes there are no excuses, but there are often reasons.
Exactly, and he's just like, yo, like, nah, don't hold me to that. Y'all know I was on these. I mean, I was on the psych meds. But it's like, nah, bro, like that shit was in you. At the end of the day, like that shit was in you. Like I've been off my fucking rocker. Like I've been dead ass drunk, blacked out, made a fucking ass out of myself, and embarrassed the people I was with. But I never turned on none of my homeboys and said no wild shit to them.
I don't know, man. Psych meds is kind of different, though, right?
Yeah, psych meds, and that is, in my opinion, different than drunkenness, right? So drunkenness, you know, it stops stuff like memory production, like metabolically. It stops executive functioning. It stops, you know, a lot of things in terms of your inhibitions. It doesn't create a different person. Now, when you're talking about psych meds and mental health, that literally changes like brain chemistry. So you may act differently than you would normally. So I do think there is some level of validity to what Tyrese is saying in regards to that, vis-a-vis like, you know, alcohol consumption or even, you know, any other drugs that do similar things, because all that's doing is uninhibiting you and stopping your executive function and stopping your higher order like brain thought and you know, memory and all that kind of stuff. It's not making you a different person. Mental health issues can literally effectively make you a different person because chemically your brain is operating differently. The things that make you are out of balance in some aspects. So I do think there's something there, but I do largely lean more toward Josh.
All right, so let's rock this down a couple of paces, right?
Okay.
So first things first. Whenever we're talking about psychotropic medication, and all psychotropic medication is medication that is utilized in psychological intervention. Now, when we're taking these medications, Alvin, you are correct. It is recalibrating or it is re-engaging in the brain chemistry in such a way where it is assisting you with regulation. We are all talking about this assuming the best case scenario, which is that medication is taken as it's prescribed. I can tell you right now, most people do not take their medication as prescribed. Particular psychotropic medications, you cannot do that. The reason why you cannot do that is because, once again, that psychotropic medication is there to regulate your brain chemistry. So some psychotropic medications should not be taken outside of their prescribed way. It will dysregulate your neurochemistry, right? So once again, I'm not a psychiatrist, neither am I a psychologist. But once again, understanding how it is that psychotropic medications work is a significant part of my career. On the other side of that, I am not a believer, or I am not a firm believer in this whole idea of you cannot blame me for what it is that I did while I was on these psychotropic medications. Okay, that's fair. I can blame you for not taking these medications appropriately or deconstructing or reconstructing the environment in which you took these medications. Your mental health, your health is still your responsibility. Ergo, if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, this was a behavior, this was an action that you engaged in while you were not engaging with your psychotropic medications or your psych meds appropriately, then yes, I can hold you accountable for that. Why? Because you are not maintaining what it is that you need to maintain as the individual who has this mental health issue. So it's almost like a motherfucker who got diabetes, you pass out, you get into a diabetic coma. Oh, you can't blame me for going into a diabetic coma. I got diabetes. Motherfucker, you done ate 16 packs of Krispy Kreme donuts and ain't take a lick of insulin. Bitch, you finna die because you want to die. Not because you got diabetes. It's because you're mismanaging your diabetes.
Especially in the case of a Tyrese, right? So the only caveat, so I agree with you. The only caveat I will give is people who may be resource constrained, who may not always have access to these sort of things. Like if you don't have insurance, and you know, for example, even in the insulin example, if you don't have insurance, insulin is expensive as shit.
That's much different. That's much different. I agree with you.
But in the case of a person who's a millionaire, who has resources, who has you know, enough, you know, in the chamber to kind of keep this stuff going, I 1,000,000% agree.
See, I think the thing that like I think something that was core to the conversation that they were having was, how do you treat your friend when they start acting out of line and you don't know why. Because all the shit that we're saying is a fully contextualized, we know what's going on. This person has been misusing the medicine in a way that caused them to, you can't take a drink, you start drinking, you start wilding the fuck out. Well, it's your fault because you took the drink. But what's happening in this situation is Tyrese is texting disrespectfully to DJ Envy, and DJ Envy blocks him, stops talking to him. And what I think in this situation is if my friend who has been rocking with me in a very consistent way across lots of, in a friendship, you have taxing situations. You have situations that it's not just fair weather. You if y'all have gone through some shit where it's been tough, where there's been some conflict and they've behaved one way, and now all of a sudden they're behaving a whole other way. My mind is not going to go directly to, oh, this is their real self. I'm going to go, something else is going on. So I'm going to give a little bit of extra leeway. Like, for instance, I have some friends that are a little bit on the flakier side, maybe. So if they don't show up to something, I'm like, okay, fuck you. You didn't prioritize this in the way that you should have. You didn't blah, blah, blah. I have other friends, if they're an hour late to some shit, this is an emergency situation. And I've had that happen. And I responded as if it was an emergency situation, and it was in fact an emergency situation. I didn't skip straight to fuck this nigga. He's flaked on me. He's not showing up. I'm at the restaurant. 15 minutes in, I'm like, something is wrong, and I think that's what Tyrese is talking about, or that's what he wanted. Like, if I'm acting crazy, I've never acted like that before. Your impulse to think that I must be a snake instead of going something must be wrong makes me feel like you didn't value our friendship properly.
And I can see that. I can definitely see that as well. I think that has a lot to do with how it is that we, mostly as men, are socialized to believe that, once again, we can't trust anybody. Keep squares out your circle. You know what I'm saying? Keep your grass cut low. We're constantly looking for. We are socialized to believe
Betrayal.
we are socialized to believe that we're going to be betrayed. Right. We are socialized to believe that, our friends can also be our closest enemies. So once again, we always got to be looking around the corner for somebody to in a lot of different ways. Eddie, I can see where it is that you're coming from, because once again, for a lot of us as men, we don't have that socialization to identify somebody acting differently as, once again, them being off their square versus this is who it is that they truly are. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. I've never been somebody who's really enjoyed that, oh, these are your true colors. Is it that, or is it that this is something that they are showing you and you want to focus on these aspects of this person? Because once again, within your own particular trauma, I call it constellation, within your particular trauma constellation, you have not processed through this part of your relationship that you respond strongly to people engaging this way. So in other words, you were waiting on somebody to abandon you, or you were waiting on somebody to harm you. This just confirmed that anchor.
Because that's how my brain works. Like if I so I know I kind of talk shit like I'm a good friend, but like that's a learned behavior because
I know I sit up here and act like I'm a really good person and a really good friend, but
I appreciate you being honest, my boy. He said, "Hey, you see this motherfucker sitting in front of you? I had to learn how to be a
right. You know how much violence it took for me to become
Can confirm.
Right. Y'all
known this nigga a long time. This is a growth. This is a growth trajectory nigga right here. Like, this nigga did not start here.
Hey, it's me yesterday and it's me tomorrow. That's what I'm focused on. But like,
that shit is so funny. I can appreciate your candor, my boy, but that was funny as hell.
Because I've been in situations, because even now, my first emotional impulse, because I've done something that Alvin talks about as well, which is that 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 shit, where the first thing that I feel is almost never what I act on. Because the first thing that I feel is almost always some bullshit. Like, it takes me a split second for my brain to think somebody stole. Bro, the second some shit that I put somewhere ain't where I thought I left it, I'm immediately going,
somebody stole it.
Somebody stole it. Somebody been in my shit, and it's like, oh, I left it in my pocket. I left it on top of the fridge. I've had so many things where I'm like, oh fuck, I left that at a girl's house, and I'm like, oh nah, the roommate done stole it. My immediately, you know what I'm saying? So I have to, or the littlest difference in vocal tone, and I'm like, oh, this nigga's trying to box, like, off nothing. But obviously, for my safety reasons, but also for just pro-social reasons, I don't act on those. So I do get situations where I'm like, oh, this person has me fucked up, but let me just take a second, because why are they acting like that? This isn't in character. Let me just step back, maybe even take a day or two. Maybe I need to block them temporarily just so I can process and really think. And a lot of times I like consult other people to be like, am I tripping? What's going on? Let me think. Because I need to, I got to keep myself safe. I can't just go, oh, anything that somebody does to me is fine, so that I can, keep the peace. I don't want to do that either. But all right, how do I uphold my boundaries without wilding the fuck out? It should take a second. So making it worse. So like, take a step back, breathe. Okay. And sometimes they are tripping, but even then I try and come in and be like, okay, you're tripping. It don't need to be a fight, but I'm done with this.
So and I agree with that too. Like, and the other thing from that conversation between taking it back to Tyrese and Envy was Tyrese was making it sound like, why did you back away from him? Like Envy was wrong for backing away from him in a time of, I guess, in a time of need. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, how much abuse? Because what they were describing that Tyrese was abusive. It's like, bro, like how much abuse and manipulation am I expected to take from you when I've never treated you in such a manner? It's like, I get it, you going through something, but my nigga, I'm not about to sit up here and get abused by you, bro, while you going through some shit. I can be there for you, but my nigga, you're not going to abuse me and disrespect me, my family. I can't blame Envy for taking that damn step back, like for real. Like, I cannot blame him for that, because like when I really thought about it, I was like, no, that's fucking abuse. What Tyrese is describing. I don't give a damn if you in your right mind or not. Like, I'm living my own life, and I gotta just boom, like a car accident out of nowhere. You come in my life with some bullshit, talking crazy.
You make
like you don't know what the fuck he got going on. Like, so that was that. I was really more so like on Envy side, but I definitely do want to extend Tyrese that grace that he was asking for, because hey, I get it. People go through shit, but it's just I didn't really care for that. Oh, just sweep it under the rug, nigga, like it didn't happen. Like, that ain't me. That ain't your boy. Come on, baby.
Nah,
like, nah, my nigga.
You gotta apologize for that.
Nah,
shit.
That definitely was you, my boy, and it's a part of you that you have to take accountability for. Because Josh, you are correct. What I've told my clients previously is that when you do not accept a part of yourself that you are not ready to accept because of how it is that it impacts other people, you end up gaslighting that other person. You dig what I'm saying? Because you genuinely have constructed an image that is around this imagery or this reality of yourself that you do not enjoy, but other people can see it. Simply because you've covered it up from one vantage point does not mean that it's covered from all vantage points. And simply because you're
dishonest.
There we go, right? So that dishonesty or that self-denial is creating, once again, environments of, Josh, as you said, abuse. Because oh, brother, why can't you see me through the storm? Motherfucker, because you are the storm.
Right.
You asking me to close my eyes. Like, I can't. And, Josh, both of y'all made an exceptional, because I didn't really think about it like that. But I think I've said before, like, all abuse, with the exception of maybe like psychopathic abuse, stems from like normal human to use Alvin's phrasing, human emotions, not necessarily healthy emotions, but human emotions. So it's like, almost everybody that's like physically abused their partner, it was from some place of insecurity or some place of powerlessness or some place of feeling bad inside somehow, or you made me look bad, you made me feel small, whatever, so I'm gonna hurt you, or I thought that you were cheating on me, so I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. So it's like, cool, whatever mental state caused you to cause harm, you got to take responsibility for that. And you cannot expect somebody to sacrifice their physical or mental or sexual well-being to you because you're going through some shit. Like, cool. You have an emotional internal state that made you hurt me, that made you hit me, that made you call me out of my name, that made you scream at me. Cool. I don't have to allow myself to continue being subjected to that. So that's a good point I hadn't really thought of. DJ Envy doesn't really have no matter what's going on, especially if he doesn't know, how much abuse is he expected to allow to happen to him in service of the friendship? A minimal amount, I would say. So, fair.
No, 1,000%. 1,000%. Eddie, I think you brought up a great point that I feel like will be a fantastic segue, right? Because we are Another one of the topics that we were discussing was, her name is Ro, the content creator you hit in the face with the brick, and we're talking about, once again, the protection of women and what that looks like.
Yo, this man just hit me in my face with a brick, and all these black men just watch, and they don't give a yeah, this man hit me, grabbed a rock, and hit me in my face because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch. What you want to see? What you want to see? What do y'all do? I want y'all to be a man. I want y'all to be a man. Do something. Y'all gonna let a man hit me in my face?
Eddie, what you said was that a number of the reasons why people decide to harm, or the number of the reasons why people decide to, once again, lash out, is from a human emotion. It may not be a healthy emotion, but it's from a human emotion. One of the things that you said was, you made me feel small, right? You made me feel insignificant. I think that when we talk about this whole idea of protecting black women, a number of us as men, we tend to misconstrue, or we tend to narrow it down to only physical intervention. We tend to be socialized in particular ways to believe that protection has to mean physical intervention. But
to be fair,
go ahead, I'm listening.
I think that's and I'm sorry for cutting you, but like, to be fair, I do think, just in terms of not gaslighting men's experience fully, I a little bit feel like that is an expectation that is put on men.
But
in general, continue with your point, because
one of them though.
I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm not going to say that it's not, right? And I appreciate you catching that, because once again, FD does a really good job at not like
seashells
unintentionally gaslight people. Yeah, like that whole idea.
FD signifiers, but
yeah, that shit was fucking me up, bro. I was trying to get that bitch out.
You can do it.
That shit was fucking me up. I was like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna do this shit. But no, but you make a valid point, right? I do think that that's an expectation, but how often is that the expectation versus how it is that we perceive it to be? You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's exaggerated, 100%.
It's definitely something that we need to explore, because my response is usually that it does. I'm not going to say it does not have to get to that point, but it genuinely does not have to get to that point, because the most immediate thing that we can begin doing in order to protect women is to stop aligning ourselves with ideologies and concepts that require us to dehumanize or treat women like shit in order to support our masculinity, right?
Yep.
Because, go ahead, I'm listening. Somebody was finna say something, I feel like.
No, we just amen.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
preach.
But yeah, because like in a lot of different ways, this idea of protection, right? Like, Eddie, what you are saying is 100% true. There are a number of men who firmly believe that this is like, women want us to be Superman, and it's like, not all the time, right?
No.
It's more so along the line.
There, but it's not everything. Yeah.
Exactly. It's there, but it's not every time. I think what tends to happen is that we as men do not, a lot of times, we don't navigate that conversation with nuance, right? We don't navigate that conversation by saying like, yo, I am apprehensive, or I am afraid of just randomly jumping into, like, baby, I'm from Chicago. I see it. I see it going on, and I recognize it. That does not mean that I'm going to all of a sudden shift down away from my situational awareness in order to engage in this fray where I very much so could be killed, right? But the reality of the situation for a lot of men is that because we do not want to say that, or because we don't have the response when women say, well, X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, it's like, no. I do not expect men to, once again, give up their lives in order to protect these women. My expectation is that, motherfucker, if you see some wild shit going on, bring attention to the wild shit going on so that the groupthink pattern can be broken.
You really preempted the bullshit I was going to be on, because I think the first thing I was going to say is, I think that I'm glad that you did.
You got me already, baby. I can't even get on that bullshit.
No, I was about to say, and I'm glad that you basically addressed all of the stuff that I kind of was going to start with, which was, there is we can't pretend like there isn't a push to expect men to act as physical and financial protectors. This patriarchal kind of idea of men is like, you gotta Popeye the Sailor Man come in and, box somebody up. And I'm like, I understand when men are like, I don't want to risk my life. Like, you saw what not to make it too comedic, but like on some Kevin Hart shit, like you see what he did to her.
Because if he didn't care about your face, I know he don't give a fuck about mine. That's common sense. Two black eyes ain't gonna get us home. Somebody got to drive.
I don't want to get harmed. I don't want to be harmed. But then what happens is exactly what you said. They don't want to say all that. So what they do is double down on an ideology that says she deserved it. Protection. At an ideology, you're now supporting the ideology that makes more of that shit happen. Because, like, it's wild to me that it's even a conversation because people were posting videos of her doing skits.
Don't you ever fuck with Brianna Taylor ever again?
And shit that she was saying about men that maybe could be taken one way or the other, but none of it even gets close to the same atmosphere of justifying getting bricked in the fucking face.
There we go.
Even anybody on the other side of that argument.
Fair, but what I want to know, what I'm really curious, is there like a video of what led up to the brick?
No, it's only what's been said, which is that old boy asked her for her number, got rejected.
And she didn't give it to him, and then boom, brick to the face. Like that's
boom, brick.
So I'm just and not to make it about that because I do have other points, but there's very little that I think I need to see leading up to that. Anyway.
I mean, like, you would have to have a gun or a bat.
That's what I'm saying. Outside of her pulling a deadly weapon out on him, I don't think there's anything in the moment that I can think of that would justify any of that, regardless. So I kind of don't need to know what led up to it. Like I kind of.
It's not even I don't need to know. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. You're trying to justify somebody getting hit in the face with a brick.
Yeah.
A brick. And I looked up, and because people, and see, that's the thing, man. People love not using definitions, dog. People love not using definitions. I looked up the definition for the word justify. The second definition, right? Because people be stuck on the first definition. No, I really want to talk about the second definition, right?
Okay.
Theological definition. Declare or make righteous in the sight of God.
I didn't know we was going biblical with it.
Yeah, they make it like some sacred holy shit.
Yes.
I think they
Like
deify it.
Yes, they
shit.
theologize it and they deify it, and that's the reason why in my comments or in my caption I said this is what happens when we assign a particular gender to a deity. It allows for this person to feel as if though they can be a vessel for the wrath of God. There we go.
Yeah,
so in my mind, the thing I'm like, yo, y'all are literally looking for reasons for this woman to get stoned in public.
To get
you think to get stoned.
Yeah. Wait a second. Yeah. No, because they're literally the videos are. There's one video where she slaps a guy, but it's a skit. Obviously, it's part of like a
it's
like
several
it's
of those.
consensual.
There's several of those, but they're all skits. They're all skits.
And then there's videos of her talking about how women are the real protectors because I think she's a queer woman and she's talking about that. There's another video where she talks about the contributions that like trans women have made to like femme aesthetics, and people use all of that to basically build this case that this is an unruly woman. This is an unrighteous woman. This is a
free
woman. This is a free. Well, that's not the language they're using, but exactly. And therefore, as you said, she deserves to be stoned. She deserves the wrath of God in order to be put in her place.
She deserves to be humbled. She deserves to be put in her place. Which is
with a brick. Really?
With the brick,
unbelievable.
With the brick, but bro, I thought it was so, and I don't want to minimize or I don't want to extrapolate or monopolize on this woman's experience. I genuinely don't want to do that, but I definitely want to talk about the irony in the context, which is genuinely like it was a stone, and it was a stone that was utilized in such a way that was to create disfigurement in the face. So have you all seen the acid attacks in like India and things of that nature?
Yes.
They talk about the psychology around it. It's not to kill this woman. It is to disfigure her. Right? It is to make her
kill you.
Because it doesn't kill you, right? It is to make her less appealing to the next man. Basically, if I can't have you, nobody can. You can't even have yourself.
Rob her of whatever this perceived power is of your beauty.
Yes, right. And that was my point.
That's some heinous shit.
It's very heinous.
That acid shit is heinous,
bro.
It's very heinous. It's evil.
Because have you seen the mask that they wear to protect against it? Like because you never know. Like who is selling? Who thought of that shit? Because I'm just trying to think of what because it's so common. And I guess maybe when you have a large population, it's, that lots of like, if you have a large enough population, any given thing happens a lot. But I'm just like, I ain't never been that mad. Like, I ain't never been mad enough to where I'm even close to even comprehending that type of specific kind of violence. Because you got to go to the store, not to make it light of it, but you got to go to the store. You got so much time to prepare and think about this. You got to find them in public and then splash acid on their face. Like, and you don't think maybe just let this, but it happens so much that there's an economy around it. So enough people must be wanting to like.
Yeah, but not to take off us too far off track, but that was just such a striking, thing. but bro, like that pisses me off so bad. Like oh man, like niggas can be just so fucking awful to women that it's like cartoonishly diabolical.
Yeah.
Like for like,
I love
you won't
that
talk to
phrasing.
me, and then it's like a different culture. You know what I'm saying? And like they have like, oh well, if she does not want to give you the drawers, you can get acetone in the face, so she cannot talk to any other man. Like, who the fuck are you, bro? Who the fuck are you to take something from this person? Like,
and that you said that you loved at some point, I'm assuming. Man,
like that's one I just
regardless,
really don't
but
understand,
just with that
men.
extra level is wild. I heard a woman talking about like the experience of that, because I think I'm like, just the way that would transform your whole life, because it doesn't kill you.
Right.
Like I didn't really think of it until Odi just said it there, but it doesn't kill you, and it's not designed to kill you. It's designed to change what your life is like, and it does, because you can't. The lady said she was in a grocery store, got splashed in the face. This wasn't in India; it was in a different country, but I think it was maybe the UK or something like that. He splashed in the face at the grocery store, and she's like, "Oh, I thought he threw bleach on me." So I'm like, but then it starts to burn. So I'm trying to figure out how to get it off, and there's no way. Like, you have to put like something basic on your face as quickly as you can. But regardless, once it touches you, you're fucked to some level. But the more time passes, the more it's eating away at your face. And she's like, I can feel it. It's like my whole face is on fire. And I'm like, just the pain that she was talking about. And obviously she's heavily scarred as well. So she now has to figure out how to get through those body image issues, not just the initial pain as well. I'm like, man, if that shit happened to me,
that nigga dying.
That's
I'm sorry.
Yo,
we spent a lot 3 times on that nigga's
you
family.
got to go,
I don't
buddy.
give a fuck. Like,
you
bro,
got to go. You getting seen by me.
You out of here, bro.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
The fade will be shot.
He wasn't riding on him. He let him know he's like, you're gonna have to see me. But my thing with
not going
the
home,
situation
buddy.
With it,
you ain't making it.
I never forget the first time Josh said that shit on here. Anyway, but circling back to the initial situation, I think there's a difference between the internet discourse of it and the reality discourse of it.
Okay.
Because the internet discourse that I've seen does focus on one side of the fence or another on the physical aspects of it, right? So there are a lot of people saying like, hey, y'all niggas so big and bad, y'all supposed to be the protector, then why didn't you jump in physically? I think in the real world, I think the biggest issue is that after they saw her get hit, there were a lot of men standing around that did nothing. There was no attending to the situation. There was no attempt at calling the authorities or identifying or apprehending the perpetrator. There was no, are you okay? Can I take you somewhere?
Let's call the hospital. Who are you? What's your name?
Yeah, there are people in the background saying, "What do you expect us to do?" Like, help, nigga. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think in the real world,
something.
Yeah, I think in the real world context of what that situation looked like, there were a lot of things that a lot of niggas could have done to aid in that situation that would have helped a lot of people view that as a protective situation that were not necessarily physical intervention. And I don't think that any of them did that. You know what I mean? Like,
it didn't look like that from the video, at least.
It didn't.
Yeah. So that's just
common decency. Like,
that's
regardless
what I'm
of
saying.
it being men or women or the victim being a man, or like if you see that happen to somebody,
that's ultimately what it is, right? I think it's a lack of general like decency, and I think that the aspect of the patriarchal society that we live in that has made a lot of the discourse about physical intervention in that specific case has taken away from the general lack of human decency that was displayed in that particular instance.
You know, that makes me reassess that idea of the bystander effect, because there's that famous story about the bystander effect that this
which
woman
was debunked by like several situations. The bystander effect.
Tell me about that, because it makes me think that it's not about a bystander effect. It's about that it maybe, and in that story, for instance, it's like, no, these people just didn't think this woman deserved being saved or whatever type of shit.
I mean,
so what's the real of it?
I'm not going to pretend to be like a bystander effect like aficionado.
Okay, yeah.
I'm harkening back to one slide in grad school that said like the bystander effect was largely overstated due to XYZ studies. So I didn't read those studies. I haven't studied the bystander effect, but that is something that has come out of my graduate school education that I banked away.
Well, the thing that I suspect is just that some of that stuff we're doing is actually, we're trying to take a psychological lens to like something that's sociological, that a lot of the situations we've seen historically where people weren't protected or people were allowed to be killed was not because people were like, oh, I hope somebody does something. It was because people decided folks of a certain category don't deserve help or safety.
Yes.
I think that's probably happened a lot.
That is correct.
We called it the bystander effect.
Exactly. That is effectively the stuff.
So let me get busy on this real quick, because like,
Uh-oh.
So I got my master's. I got my master's from FAMU. So I have a master's in community psychology with a focus in
Rattlers. Go Rattlers.
Hey, what up, family? But yeah, so that's one. When we say things are psychological versus sociological, they're usually one and the same, right? So Eddie, what you are talking about is very much so factual. So when we talk about psychology, we also have to talk about the history of psychology and how it is that psychology is overwhelmingly Eurocentric, and it's overwhelmingly American centered, like in a lot of different ways, right?
And so a lot of ways, a lot of that shit.
Yep.
What's it called? The wicked problem or the WASP? You know what I'm talking about?
The WASP, yes, the white Anglo-Saxon
Protestant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but there's different. It's like the fact that all the psych studies were basically done using like 19 to 25-year-old white men at universities.
As the wild type. They use that as the quote unquote wild type. So like everything is done in relation to those as like the default state. So your risk ratios, your odds ratios in those studies were all versus white Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Oh yeah, inferential statistics is wildly racist. Like inferential statistics is what it is that they use in order to justify racism and segregation. Like I love the chronology of psychology because it's so juicy and it's so fucking racist. But we're gonna get to that. So
okay, but you were saying yes,
psychology, sociology. So the bystander effect, Eddie, I firmly believe in theory would be, oh, we're waiting on somebody to do something. That's literally a sociological behavior so that you can see whether or not this person is within that deviation to be saved. So are we going to say as a collective, should we factually care enough about this individual in order to save them? And this is the reason why I enjoy the term WASP, because it's very much so a hive mind. Does this person belong to the hive, and should they be protected? If not, then let them die. If so, then keep them here. Right?
Yeah.
If we think about even just the proximity to whiteness and how it is that we believe that protects us, it is a hive mentality. Right?
Damn.
On the other side of that, this is the reason why we have so much discourse around this idea of whether or not this woman deserved to be harmed. Because once again, if you have a WASP mentality, it's not just bypass or defend, it's also attack. So what are the indicators of attack? And for a number of men, specifically, once again, black men who have proximity or believe that they have proximity to whiteness through aligning with behavior, those attack mechanisms are very similar to this whole idea of, is this woman being pure? Or is this woman behaving like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant? Or within those mentalities? If not, once again, shit get real medieval. Why? Because that is still the root of the fruit that you're eating.
And see, something on top of that makes me mad is just what you kind of said, Josh, and kind of like some other episodes we've had, like with the Suburban Boys and shit like that, is that I feel like in these conversations, people are using bullshit on one side to justify bullshit on another. It's not even. So it'll be like Alvin was saying, there is some subset of women and men, but of women who have some unrealistic expectations of what masculinity should be, including putting your life on the line to save a stranger. But then that gets turned into, see how these women want us to protect them physically with our bodies, but they refuse to be our sexual slaves across the entire civilization.
That's
and
the
it's like,
You go from one left to another fucking left.
Is dumb. Like it creates this dumb cyclical discourse in that space that has been like,
where they're like, what the fuck? But this is what, real quick, this is what makes me mad, is that it makes it very difficult, because I would consider myself like a pro-man person, but it makes it so difficult to have a nuanced conversation about any of men's concerns, because it's like, holy shit, like it's like either women have rights or like they're slate. It's like, what the fuck? I can't even have a conversation with y'all about this kind of shit, because y'all are going to 10 with what you expect women to do in order to like it coexist peacefully.
This
in order to deserve it. And it's like, what the so every conversation that's about, okay, actually that is an unrealistic expectation. Men should get to know safety, and men shouldn't be expected to be physically disposable.
But is we gonna get pussy for this if we learn this information?
Right. So now I can't even have the conversation, because I'm arguing on the other side, being like, whoa, but women are still people. Like, and it's like, fuck, how do I, So I think that's one of the things that is really saddening, because it makes it difficult to have a pro men conversation, because the shit just devolves into nonsense.
Honestly, bro, like that's one of the biggest fucking problems, right? That, like, you encapsulated that in a nutshell with that series of sentences that you just said. Like the fucking issue is like that guys have. It's like, men recognize that we have terrible problems that we are dealing with, like we're suffering from, but at the same time, when it comes to like the totality of solving it, and when it comes to women, nah, fuck that. These bitches don't deserve it. And then it's like, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, yo, no, god damn it. Like,
where did
bro,
that come from?
If we help them, we help us. Well, I'm like, no, it doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you a pussy if you talk about your feelings, nigga. Like, yo.
Bro, this shit. Do you know how often I get called gay or Derek Jackson, bro? Do you know how often this shit happens?
Really?
It's crazy. You're gay or you're Derek Jackson. Like, what?
Like, those are kind of the same. Is the Venn diagram like really?
Is the Venn diagram two circles?
You gay, you Derek Jackson, and you only doing this for pussy. Gay.
Oh, that's crazy. It's all three of those.
If I'm gay,
you're in pussy hungry homosexual. Like, what the fuck?
Like you pussy hungry homosexual.
That's fucking wild. What? My man said you pussy hungry homosexual. What?
It's a wild world out here on the internet, man.
Oh man, you just never know where they're gonna get you, bro. I tell you.
Yeah.
Oh motherfucker, but I agree 1,000%. Like, Eddie, I would like to consider myself, I'm not anti-man, but I'm pro, how can I say this? I'm pro construct your own masculinity, right? I'm pro gentle masculinity. I'm pro healthy masculinity. What it is that I'm anti is that I'm anti dehumanization, right? And traditional masculinity at its core dehumanizes men because it makes them objects of war, and it dehumanizes women because it makes them the spoils or the prizes of war, right? Yeah. So, but at the center of all of that is still war, and we're not at war all of the time, right? So why are we consistently in this? Because, bro, what I can't stand is when we start talking about women's rights, and then one of the first thing that goof ass motherfuckers say is like, "Oh, equal rights, equal lefts, or equal."
I hate that shit. I hate that shit.
That's the first thing they love to say.
Why is that?
You want equal pay, bitch? Square up.
Don't get this left in, bitch.
Like, for your 1575, Robert? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
Yo, what nigga say get in the octagon?
Did you go to? The fuck? Like, you finna piss me off, bro. But I don't get, well, I do get that shit, right? Because once again, we are a woman beating nation. Nobody wants
just a
to
beating,
admit it, but we are a woman beating nation. We have been beating women for the entirety of the reality of our nation. The shit used to be legal. I think in one of these weird off the cuff ass cities, it still is legal, right? As long as you're doing it on the stairs of the courthouse, you can't get indicted for beating this woman. Yeah, it's one of them fun fact things. It's not really
one of those ordinances.
Yeah, it's wild, right? So once again, it ultimately boils down to this whole idea of control and power. It's like, yo, do you really want these women to have equal rights, or do you want to have carte blanche to treat her the same way that you feel the world treats you as a man? Because
Absolutely.
if that's the case, that's your fucking problem, G.
Absolutely.
People want revenge. They want equal harm.
Yeah.
And I think that's and I wonder, because I don't want to get into a place where I'm just like, oh, men can't be helped for some magical reason. There must be something, and I don't know what the answer here is, but there must be a reason that in this conversation, some very justifiable issues or gripes that men have get galvanized into the solution being, we need to equalize women's pain to match ours, instead of saying we need to equalize men's gentleness and men's protection to the level of women. Because that's what I think the answer is. It's like, it's not, okay, equal rights, equal lefts. Because what the equal rights equals lefts thing is saying is, men experience pain in terms of mental health not being, valued, in terms of, our physical violence against us being seen as just justified, just a part of what it is to exist as a man, et cetera, et cetera. And in exchange for that, there's this social contract that says, therefore, we get paid more, or we get listened to, or we're in charge of society, or we get to have sex with women. And so when that contract gets broken on one side as a result of the way that society has developed, so that women have better, just are more equal participants in society, that contract gets broken down on one side. Women get to have access to making money and to being, heard in society and running for head of state. Men still feel that they're experiencing violence. And so instead of going, oh, we should get to know peace, we go, no, women should have to pay the price of violence that we have to feel we have to pay in order to participate in society. And I don't know why that thinking is the way that it goes so often. And there must be an answer, and I'd like to find out what it is.
And I think it's more complicated than that, because if you look at it, I've brought up these stats pretty consistently over the course of this podcast, is that when you really look at stuff in regards to place in society, like, black men and women are the most equal in terms of our pain and our successes. You know what I mean?
But there's a story, that doesn't necessarily always match what's actually happening. There's a story about masculinity.
Even in the black men and black women,
we definitely use white statistics in order to identify and describe black phenomena constantly, and I can't stand that.
And it's like, if you look at, so I bring this up to women all the time. If you look at like murder, men of every demographic are murdered to a much higher degree than women,
and it ain't close.
It's not particularly close. And then if you bring up anything, if you look at the numbers, because I've actually done this work, so I brought it up. I've looked at actual FBI database information over the course of time. The Guardian used to keep a database on murders, on like raw data murder statistics, so I could do this stuff myself back when I was into that. So I've looked at, this isn't something that anybody like reported to me. Like, I've looked at the raw data and analyzed it myself. Alvin Borum, epidemiologist. Anyway,
SPSS,
epidemiologist,
Esquire.
Okay, SPSS.
So there's no level. Yeah, there's no level.
Nigga.
Yeah, there's no level of misclassification that closes the gap on murder between black men and black women. However, if you look at the larger realm of violent crime, the numbers are strikingly similar, and it's advantage women. Right, so they experience our pain already, right? Like, we're the most egalitarian in terms of money, of any race. You know what I mean? And pain.
Yeah.
As I say all the time, like, in very short order, black women will on average make more than black men. Just the education gap. The education gap at every level of education.
You're saying will.
Yeah,
soon.
will.
Is that what you mean? Okay, yes, yeah.
That's what I said.
Oh, facts.
Anyway,
sorry. I'm just clarifying what I heard. Goddamn.
Yeah. It's probably 5 to 10 years, right? Because they get way more bachelor's degrees than us. They get way more graduate education than us. They get way more professional education than us. Even accounting for stuff like student loans and debt and all that kind of stuff, they will have more economic clout than us very soon. So when you look at it from the perspective that you said of how, like, we expect them to pay a pound of flesh because we want them to be like dealing with what we're dealing with, they are, bro. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. So what officially is happening is that men want women to be beneath them. They don't want them to pay the price for
by
equality
whatever
because
means.
we've been equal. We've been equal. We've been equal in pain. We've been or better off again because as I said, the violent crime statistics are. I said advantage earlier, but disadvantaged women, they do experience more violent crime, even though we experience more murder. Like they have had to claw their way up from all of the patriarchy, from all the bullshit, from all of the larger white structural institutions, the smaller black community structural institutions to do that. So we're not even trying to give them pain to match ours. We're saying like we want you to be beneath us, and I think that's telling in and of itself. It shows how ingrained we are as a subservient class historically to the larger structural patriarchy. And I'm saying that as the resident, radical feminist of the podcast, apparently, but I think that in and of itself is telling.
Very much so. I actually want to piggyback on that, Alvin, because my favorite statistics to bring up are the domestic violence statistics between black men and black women, right? I firmly believe that we tend to forget that we are black. I firmly believe that amongst all of this power, all of this education, all of this increased, social mobility, we tend to forget that we are black, and we tend to forget that we still have sociological and, once again, ecological responses based upon our skin color that creates stimuli that move the environment in different ways, right? So when we talk about how it is that black men over time will earn less than black women, it's not because black men are not working any less harder. It's because black men do not have access to, once again, that mental wellness or those spaces of safety for them to process the ecological weight of psychic racism. A number of black men have internalized that to be a part of, once again, their black malehood identity. So because that exists at that nexus of social movement versus self-identification, a number of black men find themselves making decisions early in their lives that remove their ability or vastly impact their ability to have that social mobility over time the same way black women do. Why? Because black women are not expected to make those decisions, or they're socialized to make them different.
Can we talk specifically? Like, and let me clarify what I mean by that, because I think Alvin's context was interesting. Your context was interesting. I'm curious again about why specifically black men feel this desire for a pound of flesh or this desire to be above in response to the equality conversation. Is it?
My thing is, I don't think they do. I think that is something that black men have picked up from larger patriarchal societal.
Okay. So to relate it to what Odi's saying, I guess my question is, do we think that this simply stems from black men copying white patriarchy, and that's it? That's where this misogyny comes from? Or is there anything is there any justifiable pain that is happening among black men that is being lightning rodded incorrectly, is my question.
So I firmly believe that that is a great question, actually. I firmly believe that there is a lot of justifiable pain, and that justifiable pain is black men have not been in control of their own narrative, and they have not been able to move. So when we're talking about physiological responses to bodies as a stimuli, black women engender the same physiological response from their environment as white men. So if we were to place a black woman and a white man in the same space, they receive the same physiological response from the environment, right? Which I found to be
What does that mean?
So basically, how our bodies perceive threat versus how they perceive challenge, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the way that it is that physiologically black women are perceived, they are perceived at the same physiological challenge level as white men. We do, even though we know white men are capable of violence, we do not expect them to do.
We view them as civilized or something,
right? We expect black men to do violence.
Okay.
So the physiological response environmentally that black men get is of threat.
So the way black men are viewed as a threat is distinct from, for instance, black women and white men in terms of this person is dangerous.
Yes. This person is dangerous, black man. These people are challenging, white man, black woman. This person does not make a blip, white women. That's the reason why a number of white women tend to have the sociological response of co-opting other people's power in order to make noise, because sociologically they've been the most tuned out.
Tuned out?
Tuned out.
Okay.
So think
What do you
about
mean by
how
that?
it is. Think
Okay.
about how it is that radical feminism became a thing in the 1970s, based upon the men in the new left attempting to once again place themselves above women. Then we have radical feminists who basically, once again, was a response to being put out or left out of the new left. White women over historically in sociological movements have been tuned out. So what they have had to do is that even in the suffrage movement, they literally had to, in order to get their voting rights, they had to go to southern racists and be like, yo, if you give us voting rights, these niggas won't be able to get nothing done. So once again, it is this co-opting based upon how it is that the society perceives this individual, right?
See, because maybe it's some nuance that you're including in that, but like, because I would agree in terms of the like how are different categories of people perceived as threat, because that's kind of how we get the Karen phenomenon, because white women are allowed to exist in a space where even when they're being actively violent, they're not viewed as violent somehow.
Yes.
But the tuned out thing, I feel like black people of all genders are tuned out way more than white women.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
And maybe that's part of what you were saying. So
yeah, no, that's definitely
because white women get heard. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
They no. I don't believe that.
It's the response, right?
It's the response.
It's like the study where, like, if I see black people in the fMRI study, if I see a black man that I don't know, that might trigger a super big amygdala response.
That is exactly what I'm referring to, Alvin. That is exactly what I'm referring to.
Oh, so you're saying when you say tuned out, you mean they kind of pass under the anxiety radar of people? Okay, gotcha. I misunderstood. Gotcha.
Yes, that's what I mean when I say tuned out. Now, when we are talking about this, or when we are contextualizing this, Eddie, going back to your point of that lightning rodding, I firmly believe that a number of black men feel this, but they don't know how to explain it. Being locked into this consistent ecological response of I am a threat, even though I'm not doing anything threatening, and how that impacts my ability to move through spaces to a point where it can benefit me. Black women don't have that same experience. And there are a number of black women who attempt to weaponize that against men in order to make them feel insignificant and smaller. And I feel like that's where a lot of that kickback comes from, especially with black men. Because what I say to black women a lot is that, y'all have expectations of us to perform benevolent patriarchy for you when we as black men have never been able to assert ourselves in the patriarchy. Because for us as black men, asserting ourselves in our type of masculinity in the patriarchy is seen as an act of war to white men.
In the schooling system, I definitely see something there. Yeah. Like that early schooling, the way people are treated can drastically reduce your ability to kind of get through high school, get into university, get into, a master's program, et cetera, et cetera. If you're viewed as a threat from from second grade when you're, 7 or whatever. Yeah.
There's a reason why so many black boys don't like school. It's not necessarily because they don't like learning. They don't like school.
Yeah. They don't like being in that building.
Exactly.
It goes into another topic that we don't have time for, but that's interesting. Okay, so any closing remarks, because we about to wrap it here. So anybody got any particularly poetic nuggets of information they want to give to the populace? Okay, well look, if you see your homie tripping in the text messages saying wildness to you and your wife that he's never fucking said before in his life, you might be seeing a red flag. But at the same time, if you're on the internet or in person justifying a woman being bricked in the face for no reason other than her rejecting somebody, it's definitely you that's waving the red flag. It's been Waving the Red Flag podcast. It's been Eddie. It's been Josh. It's been Alvin, joined today by Professor Odi 'B. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah. So good people, great people, God people. Appreciate y'all for having me on the Waving the Red Flag podcast. Everybody who's listening in, everybody who's visiting in, y'all can go find me on TikTok. TikTok is where I have most of my followers. So TikTok is Professor.Odi. Instagram is Professor_Odi. And YouTube is also Professor_Odi.
Links in the description.
Yeah, links in the description. I definitely have a podcast of my own called The Antidote. And y'all can come check me out on my YouTube. I have it on Spotify, but I need to get better at updating the episodes on Spotify. So come find me on the YouTube. We're going to watch the videos. We're going to have the discussions. And just continue to, see me on other podcasts and shit.
Hell yeah. Thank you very, very much for coming through. Excellent insights. And
I just want to say, Eddie, I had a W.E.B. Du Bois quote that I was going to throw in there, but you cut me out because you only gave me.
No, go ahead.
Hey,
You only gave me 5. You only gave me 5 seconds. Eddie.
5 seconds before you.
Fucking
I didn't
5
wait long
seconds,
enough.
man.
He ain't got no quote for real, though. He ain't got no quote for real.
Octagon. It's the octagon. It's not a boxing ring. You know what I mean? You got to get up quick. Wait, did you actually have a Dubois?
Not Dubois.
We had that conversation too.
We had that conversation last week. I know better.
It's Ken.
Somebody's gonna cancel me. Yeah, it's Ken apparently.
Yeah, but as we can cut this out. But I was gonna say, like, you know how he starts Souls of Black Folk with, you know, like what it's like always being a problem, and being a problem is a peculiar situation, even for somebody who's never been anything but, and that's a direct response to how black men move in society. And I thought that was particularly poignant and hit home with what the good professor was saying to close us out. But, you know, Eddie didn't give me time to make that point.
Leave that shit.
And I apologize. So wait, so is the point of that quote that you're being treated as a problem, even though you definitely are not one, and that just changes the way you move?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes.
This one thing I ain't gonna lie, I've been thinking about this entire time. It's like, I get it. Like the cause versus the cause and effect. Yeah, like black men, everything everybody said. I'm a black man. I get it. I know. But even in that, it's like we still, like y'all said too, like mimic kind of like the patriarchy and what we were seeing like white people was doing. But hell, I don't know what we was doing back in Africa to women. Because it was still very much a patriarchal society, even in Africa. But we still, like, even over here, we have been putting the women as somewhat second-class citizens. Like, it's not, you know, that was something that we did to our black women. And, like, we hold a lot of the force when it comes to, like, disrespecting women in our music. Our own women
you feel like
in
we're
our
displacing
music
blame
teams.
a bit?
Huh?
You feel like we're displacing blame a bit? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just calling things out. I'm just calling things out as I see it. I don't know, but because I just feel like that might have been like missing a little bit. Like, yeah, I get it, but we also have to own up to like, nah, nigga, we doing this shit. Like we are very much so actively doing this shit too. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, like everything has a reason, but like we said at the beginning of the podcast, it's a reason, not an excuse.
Yep.
Yeah.
We are definitely complicit in the bullshit that we be moving through. I agree.
And I think the only reason that I brought up the idea of a reason and wanted to focus on that is because I think identifying a reason is kind of the first step to creating a solution. Because if you get stuck in there's no reason, this is wrong, it'll never get fixed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't even begin to fix. You just go, these people are evil and they do the wrong thing all the time. Fuck them.
Right.
You can't ever, like, you can't solve a problem like that unless you go, okay, there's the reason that they're doing it is this. They're thinking this, and then they're making this mistake. How do we get them to see a different, interpretation of this situation?
Yeah, we have to create.
Is where I was coming from.
I feel like we have to create an effective and efficient and a person-first framework of redemption for black men. I think that in that space, we'll have a lot of success and we'll have a lot of understanding. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I dig what you're saying, and audience members, you'll find out even more about that in subsequent episodes and other stuff from Professor Odi, which you'll find by subscribing, clicking the links. Join us on Patreon if you want all of the bonus episodes and full community access. You can also join as a member on Spotify or as a YouTube member, and you'll get the full access to the Discord, all that stuff. Like it, subscribe, let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see y'all next week. Thanks for joining us, as always. Peace.
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Professor Odi.
D.